All right. I figured I'd take a moment to talk about this. It's a couple of days old now, but obviously, season 3 will be the last of Stargirl, and I assumed it would be, especially with CW collapsing and all that, having been sold off. The Flash will come to an end, so that whole era is finally over. And I mean, it lasted longer than it should because it devolved into just sheer idiocy. You know, The Flash at one time was a good show, believe it or not, but it was. And but it hasn't been that for years. And so it's all gone. And unfortunately, Stargirl became a part of that. The little subtitle here of Stargirl will come to an end after 3 seasons on the CW. Well, not exactly. It was first season was on the now defunct DC Universe streaming service, which was just a bizarre thing that happened at all. Because even at the time, I signed up for it and I watched these shows and stuff, and I was like, there's no way this is going to take off and last. And of course it didn't. And then meanwhile, working on HBO Max, which they did, which apparently, well, despite subscriptions and whatnot, it wasn't quite the success that they had thought it would be. And to where now, under Discovery and Zaslav, they're looking to go back to the old drawing board of build up your theatrical releases, and HBO Max would be treated like HBO always was. The movies will go there and stuff. There will be in-house productions for it, but not quite to the extent that the original plan was. So with CW coming to an end, he thought, oh, well, these shows will move to HBO Max. Well, the reruns will, but new ones, well, Stargirl was a good show. It was better by far than any of the CW stuff. The closest thing I could think of was The Flash when it was good. That's, how good the show was. It surprised me that it was good. It's not a show for me in that way. I'm a comic book guy, so I appreciated all the nods to it and everything. But, I'm not a teenager, and I'm certainly not a teenage girl. But the odd thing about it was they did manage to weigh that very well, because I was like, I'm going to get high school romance drama stuff. I don't care. There was some of that in there, but it was at a minimum. The overall superhero story is what dominated, and that's what surprised me about it. And there was all kind of nice little tributes and nods to DC Comics history and lore and all that stuff, and that was great. The second season was weaker than the first season, but in this shifting transitional phase, it was a Herculean task for it to break out and get it to where it was safe to continue on. So they knew this was coming, so the third season will get a send-off. And don't know if they'll be able to wrap up everything, because the second season did set up a lot of stuff, especially about Jade's brother, the mystery of where he is. And I don't know if they'll have Alan Scott show up or not. I mean, he's dead as a result of the Justice Society getting wiped out. But we'll see. And maybe there'll be some sort of reunion there. This comes out of the stories where the Justice Society was set up as a mentor thing to younger superheroes, and Stargirl being one of them. And so now that Starman has been brought back, perhaps there'll be some amount of that, but she's kind of found her way anyway without him. So but anyway, but but it got 3 seasons, which is more than you probably would have expected, and so at least they're getting a chance to have it sell off into the sunset, rather than just ending on some cliffhanger, not and then that's it. So they're going to get to do that. So of the two that were oddly better than the average CW show, which was absolute garbage, Stargirl shined forth, but Superman and Lois was easily the superior one of the two, and did get some amount of following, but apparently that probably won't be enough. So I will be expecting to hear that it'll be canceled as well. But perhaps, their next season, which is under production, with some cast changes, a new Jonathan Kent will be there. But with the emphasis on the theatrical release and Henry Cavill coming back as Superman, maybe they'll go back to that old rule of they don't want two entities of the same character, even though this would be a television and a very different version of Superman. I'm guessing that would play into it as well. I mean, unless it was this massive rating success, then of course it would survive. But the odd thing about it is that all these hints about Ben Affleck will come back as the DC, the cinematic universe Batman. But then you got Robert Pattinson Batman. So you're okay. That's two movies. I don't know how they're going to work that out. How that, is say, well, they're two separate projects. And well, then Superman and Lois show should be able to continue. But then again, if it's not bringing in the numbers to their satisfaction, well, they'll probably go ahead and close that one too. And move forward with what comes out of the cinematic efforts, and perhaps get back to some shows for HBO Max and that sort of thing. Right now, all it would be is what James Gunn is set up with Peacemaker and stuff like that. There's supposed to be some other show he wants to do, and we'll have to see how that turns out. But and of course, the Batman has the Penguin show and stuff like that. So the main emphasis would be on the DC shared universe movies, but it's always been this way with DC. They're kind of stuck where they are. They can't quite get out. They couldn't just scrap the DCEU Snyderverse stuff because they had some diamonds in the rough, So that's the way it's always been, and so I guess there'll be some side projects and stuff. But as far as the CW era, it's over. This business of Gotham Knights, that's odd. I don't know why they're going forward with that. It looks terrible. It sounds awful. Maybe somebody owed a favor and they're just going to shoot it and slap it out there and it's one and done. I would guess. Because otherwise, I mean, why bother with this when you could just do more Superman and Lois? Hell, even Stargirl would be better than this. So I don't know. And then there's this story about they want to do a superhero university with the Jon Stewart or John Diggle character being like the dean of it. That just sounds awful. He should have gotten the Green Lantern series, but it just wasn't. The money wasn't there, and they just weren't serious about it anymore. And the dialogue and stories and plots were terrible. So it showed promise here and there. Of course, the Arrow's first season was excellent, but I don't know. It all turned stupid, and it's just amazing that it lasted as long as it did. And then after the sale of CW, you're like, yeah, CW never turned a profit. So it's like, what the hell was all that? So anyway, yeah, this was inevitable, unfortunately. But she got 3 seasons. That's not bad.